Okay, so picture this. You're like this tech genius, swimming in cash, literally tossing gold coins into the ocean just for fun. And then, years later, flat broke.
Oh, wow.
Wild, right?
It is. Makes you think.
It does. Like, is being good with money just about being smart? I don't know. So that's what we're going to dive into today.
Okay.
We're cracking open Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money, right?
Right.
To figure out why making those smart money decisions, it's more about how you behave with money.
Interesting.
Not just like how much you know.
Yeah, I like that. What I really enjoy about this book is Housel doesn't just hit you with like the typical dry financial advice.
Yeah.
It's like he uses these almost like these captivating short stories, like little financial fables,
Oh, nice.
to show you just how weird and unpredictable our relationship with money can be.
It is. It totally is. And it's perfect, right? Because
Yeah.
we can kind of unpack some pretty complex ideas
Yes.
and not get lost in like, a sea of financial jargon. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a shortcut
Yeah. It's like the cheat sheet.
to a whole new perspective.
Yeah. It's not about, what to do with the money, but like how to think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
In a way that just like sets you up to make those better choices.
Exactly.
So let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
Housel, he kicks things off with this story that like honestly stopped me in my tracks.
Okay.
We've got Ronald Reed,
Mm-hmm.
this Vermont janitor,
Okay.
and this guy quietly amassed like an $8 million fortune.
What?
He died the same year that Richard Fiscone,
Okay.
like Harvard-educated, a finance whiz, filed for bankruptcy.
No way.
I mean, how is that even possible?
That's crazy. It just goes to show, right? Like, that's Housel's main argument. Like, our experiences, right?
Yeah.
They shape our financial choices.
Yeah.
Like, way more than any textbook, any expert ever could. Think about it.
Yeah.
Ronald Reed, humble job, dedicated saver and investor. Fuscone, on the other hand, debt, lifestyle he just couldn't keep up with. So it's not about brains.
Nope.
It's about behavior.
Behavior. You got it.
I like it.
We treat finance like it's physics.
Uh-huh.
All hard and fast rules.
Yeah.
But it's really psychology.
Totally.
Emotions, biases, experiences influence our choices. We don't even realize it.
And that's where things get interesting, right?
That's where it gets good.
Because he dives into this idea that, like, no one's crazy when it comes to money.
Yeah.
It's like we all see the world, but through this lens shaped by our own experiences.
That absolutely.
So what seems irrational to one person might make perfect sense to another.
It's true. It's so true. And one example that I always think about is this.
Okay.
There was economic research. And it showed that people, right, who grew up during times of high inflation, right,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to, like, shy away from bonds later in life, even if inflation isn't a problem anymore.
Interesting.
So those early experiences, they make a mark. They just stick with you.
They stick. So even if we have, like, the right information, right?
Yeah.
Our gut reaction based on our past can steer us in completely different directions.
Totally different direction.
It's unsettling.
Yeah, no, it is unsettling. It's like when John F. Kennedy said he didn't understand the Great Depression until he read about it in college.
Really.
Yeah, he lived through it, but,
Privilege shielded him.
yeah, from the impact.
This makes me think about all the big financial moments that, like, shaped my relationship with money. Remember the dot-com bubble bursting?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was glued to the news, those stock prices plummeting. What about you?
Oh, man.
What moments in your life you think might be unconsciously, like, influencing your choices?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a great question for everyone listening, too.
Yeah.
Howes really encourages us to think about that. How our history might be coloring our perceptions.
Of risk, reward.
Exactly. What we think is possible.
Yeah. Which brings us to the Bill Gates story.
Oh,
And, this whole question of luck versus risk.
right.
We all know about Gates's lucky break, right?
Huh?
Being in one of the few high schoolers that had a computer back in the 1960s.
Yep.
But Housel, he introduces us to Ken Evans,
Okay.
Gates's best friend and, like, coding partner.
Yeah.
But then he tragically died
Oh.
before their dreams took off.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's where it all connects.
And that's where it all comes together.
Luck and risk.
Yeah.
Two sides of the same coin.
Like, for every Bill Gates, there's a Ken Evans.
Right.
Same talent, same drive.
Just didn't get that same break.
It's not just like a philosophical idea,
Bro.
It has real consequences for how we look at success, failure, in our own lives.
Totally.
Like, humbling.
It is. Like, House urges us, right?
Yeah.
Don't give too much credit or blame for individual actions. The world's messy.
It is.
Chance plays a role more than we think.
It's like a powerful reminder to be humble.
Be humble.
About our wins and forgiving of our losses, right?
Certainly.
Who knows how much of our journey is, like, shaped by things beyond our control.
That's a good point.
But, I think that's a conversation for a whole other time.
You could talk about that forever.
What's really got me, like, intrigued is how this all ties into something way more fundamental,
Okay.
Like, this human desire for more, even when we already have, like, enough. It's like this hunger that never goes away.
Yeah. Like we're wired for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we're always chasing that next thing, aren't we?
Yeah.
Housel, he tells these crazy stories about Rajat Gupta and Bernie Madoff.
Okay.
These guys were already, like, wildly successful, but they risked everything for even more money.
It's like,
Gupta,
yeah.
he was a former McKinsey CEO,
Okay.
got caught up in insider trading,
Wow.
and Madoff,
Yeah.
already a millionaire, for his legit business, ran this massive Ponzi scheme.
It's almost unbelievable.
I know it's hard to wrap your head around.
Like, incredibly smart people,
Yeah.
but they still fell into that trap.
I think it shows something we can all relate to.
Yeah.
This struggle to define enough.
Yeah, like, what is that?
Right.
What does that even mean?
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
We're constantly bombarded with messages about what we should have,
Yeah.
what we should be earning.
Keep up with the Joneses, right?
It's this never-ending pressure.
Oh, yeah. And it's exhausting.
It really is.
This reminds me of that quote from John Bogle.
Oh, yeah.
The founder of Vanguard.
Okay.
He said, enough.
Mm-hmm.
I was stunned by the simple eloquence of that word.
Wow.
It's so true. When does ambition become a problem?
Right.
When does more turn into something destructive?
Yeah. Those are big questions.
We should all be asking ourselves that.
Totally. No matter where we are financially.
Yeah, for sure. House also really nails it when he talks about how comparing ourselves to others is a huge part of the problem.
Oh, yeah.
It's this never-ending game of leapfrog.
Right. Someone's always going to have more. It is.
It's like a casino.
Oh,
The only way to win is to walk away.
I love that analogy.
Yay!
But speaking of winning, let's talk about a different kind of game.
Okay.
The long game. Compounding.
Ah, the magic of compounding.
Yes.
It's like this secret weapon to build wealth over time.
It is.
But Housel makes a great point.
Okay.
Our brains aren't wired to really grasp it.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine.
I love that he uses this analogy of ice ages to explain it.
Ice ages and money. Okay, I'm listening.
All right, so think about what causes an ice age.
Okay.
You might think some huge catastrophic event,
Yeah.
but it's much more subtle than that.
Right.
It all starts with something small.
Right.
A slightly cooler summer
Right?
prevents all the snow from melting.
So just a little bit of leftover snow
Exactly.
doesn't sound that threatening.
Right. But that's where the compounding comes in.
Oh,
That little bit of snow
yeah.
makes it easier for more snow to pile up the next winter.
And then that reflects more sunlight,
Okay.
which cools the planet even further.
So it just keeps building.
Exactly. A snowball effect on a global scale.
Wow. Okay, I see where you're going with this.
And before you know it, you've got this massive ice sheet covering huge parts of the Earth.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is.
So how does this relate to, like, our bank accounts?
Okay, so think about Warren Buffett.
Okay, the OG.
We all think his wealth is from just being a genius investor.
Right.
But a huge part of it is he's been investing consistently for over 70 years.
Oh, it's like he's a compounding machine.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the real power.
Yeah.
Housel points out that most of his wealth, like $81.5 billion, was built after he turned 65.
Wow.
It's not just skill, it's decades of returns building on themselves.
So it's like time is our secret weapon.
It really is. Time is more powerful than trying to chase those crazy high returns.
Makes sense.
Housel compares Buffett to Jim Simons,
Okay.
this hedge fund manager.
Yeah.
Amazing track record, 66% annual returns.
66%. That's wild.
I know. But here's the thing.
Okay.
He didn't start getting those returns until he was 50.
Oh, wow.
So less time for compounding.
I see.
So even with those amazing returns, his net worth is way less than Buffett's.
That's crazy. It really puts things in perspective.
It does.
Start early and stick with it.
Couldn't agree more.
I like it. And it leads to something important.
What's that?
Staying rich is harder than getting rich.
Ooh, that's deep.
I know, right? We hear so many stories about people striking it rich,
Yeah,
but we don't hear about how hard it is to actually hold on to it.
it's true.
Housel talks about Jesse Livermore,
Oh, yeah.
legendary stock trader,
Mhm.
made a fortune betting against the 1929 crash,
Wow.
but then lost it all a few years later.
Oh, no.
Talk about a cautionary tale.
Right. The dangers of overconfidence.
Yeah, and the importance of managing risk.
He was great at spotting opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
but no discipline or humility to protect his wealth.
That's tough.
Housel compares him to Abraham Germansky,
Okay.
a real estate developer,
Yeah.
who also lost everything in the crash.
It's a good point that both success and failure,
Yeah,
they can be fleeting.
that's a good way to put it.
It's a reminder that we're all vulnerable.
At any point.
Yeah. So how do we avoid being another Jesse Livermore? How do we protect ourselves?
You know, Housel really emphasizes this idea of a survival mindset.
Okay.
It's not about being scared to take risks,
Uh-huh.
but understanding that protecting your capital is crucial. He quotes Michael Moritz,
Okay.
head of Sequoia Capital,
Wow.
who says, "We've always been afraid of going out of business."
Fear. That doesn't sound like a fun way to approach investing.
No, it's not about being paralyzed by fear,
Okay.
but having a healthy dose of paranoia.
So like expecting the unexpected.
Exactly. Planning for those bumps in the road.
Be prepared.
Right.
I like it. So you're saying expect the unexpected and be prepared to ride out the storms.
That's it.
I can get behind that.
Housel calls it a barbelled personality.
Okay, a barbell personality.
Yeah. Optimistic about the long term,
You're okay.
but a little paranoid about those short-term risks.
I like it.
Right. It's about blending that belief in growth with an awareness of the dangers.
Okay, I'm seeing the wisdom in that.
It's like having a solid foundation,
Yeah.
but staying flexible enough to adapt.
That makes sense. And this leads to another interesting idea he talks about.
What's that?
You don't have to be right all the time to succeed.
Oh, interesting.
Right. I thought making good decisions was the whole point.
It is important, of course.
Okay.
But Housel argues that in a lot of areas of life, including finance, a few key events can have a huge impact.
Okay.
He calls it the tails phenomenon.
Tails. Like heads and tails.
Yeah.
What does that mean for investing?
Okay, so imagine flipping a coin 100 times.
Right.
You expect to get 50 heads and 50 tails right.
Yeah, makes sense.
But what if in those 100 flips,
Yeah.
just one tail meant winning $1 million?
Well, I wouldn't care about all the heads I'd be celebrating.
Exactly. And that's kind of how it works with investing.
So it's not about hitting a home run every time.
Right. It's more about making sure you're in the game for the big wins.
Okay, I see.
40% of public companies end up losing almost all their value.
Wow.
And the Forbes 400 list has 20% turnover each decade.
So it's like this constant game of musical chairs.
It is. And it shows that even with skill and strategy, chance still plays a role.
So how do we apply this tails idea to our own lives? How do we make sure we're there for those big opportunities?
Housel suggests focusing on avoiding those big losses.
Okay.
Don't obsess over every single decision.
Mhm.
Build resilience and stay in the game long enough.
Got it.
Think about venture capitalists.
Okay.
They invest in tons of startups knowing most will fail,
Yeah, that's true.
but they only need one or two big successes.
Interesting.
It's about diversifying, accepting some will fail, and maximizing the ones that succeed.
So playing defense and offense at the same time.
In a way, yeah. And it frees you from needing to be right all the time.
I like that.
Take calculated risks, learn, and keep moving forward.
This is making me rethink my approach.
Really?
Yeah, I get so caught up in the details trying to predict everything.
Yeah, I get that.
But maybe it's more about the long-term plan and being patient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ride those ups and downs.
Yeah, for sure. It's all part of the journey.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that leads to one of the most important parts of all of this, freedom.
Freedom. It's a word you hear all the time, like especially when it comes to money.
Oh, yeah.
But what's it actually mean?
Right. Is it just about, like, having tons of cash?
Yeah, stacks on stacks.
Housel, he really digs into that. He says it's not just about the money itself.
Okay.
It's about control.
Right.
Right. Over your time, your choices.
So being able to call the shots.
You got it.
Yeah.
He tells this story about a guy who buys this fancy car, right, just to, like, impress his neighbors.
Oh, yeah. Keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly.
Classic.
But the thing is, the guy buying the car, he doesn't even like cars.
Oh, come on.
He's doing it for show.
Yeah, like this image of success.
Right. It's a bad investment.
Totally. Sacrificing his own happiness just to impress people he probably doesn't even like that much.
It's a perfect example of Like chasing that validation from others.
Instead of like focusing on what makes you happy.
100%.
And it ties back to enough, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're always measuring yourself against others.
You'll never be satisfied.
Never.
Even if you have all the money in the world.
So Housel says real wealth is about freedom.
Yeah.
Like chasing your passions.
Spending time with people you care about. Contributing to stuff you believe in.
Okay, so how do we build that kind of wealth?
Right.
Is it all about saving every penny?
Not really. Housel says align your spending with your values.
I like that.
What makes you happy?
Yeah.
Prioritize that.
Even if it means cutting back in other areas.
Exactly. So conscious spending.
Not just buying whatever,
Yeah, exactly. Make choices that line up with your long-term goals.
Not just like fleeting desires.
Yeah. Or what everyone else is doing.
It reminds me of that saying, wealth is what you don't see. Not about the fancy stuff. It's about the security, the freedom to like live life on your own terms.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Housel talks about saving, He gets it.
Yeah.
It's not always fun and exciting,
No, it's not sexy.
but it's the foundation.
It's like building that emergency fund.
Paying down debt.
Yeah, investing in the future. It's not about depriving yourself. It's
Right.
about giving yourself choices.
Options.
Yeah.
And it goes back to Housel's idea of being reasonable, not just rational.
Okay, what's the difference?
Well, he says we often make decisions based on what we think we should do,
Yeah,
not what's best for us,
in the real world.
Right.
So it's okay to break the rules sometimes.
He gives this example. A couple spends a big chunk of their savings on a dream vacation.
Okay.
Now, rationally.
Yeah, the financial gurus would be freaking out.
Oh, yeah. Opportunity cost.
Long-term returns.
But Housel's point is, sometimes investing in experiences, in memories, that's valuable too.
So finding the balance between financial smarts and like actually living a good life.
100%. Money is a tool.
Yeah, it's not the end goal.
And to wrap up our deep dive, I think we should touch on Housel's insights about dealing with the unexpected.
Yeah, like how to prepare for like curveballs.
He talks a lot about this margin of safety,
Oh, yeah.
acknowledging things don't always go as planned.
So create buffers.
Exactly. Protect yourself from financial shocks.
So like an emergency fund for your whole life.
Exactly. Build flexibility, resilience into your plan.
Adapt.
That's it.
This has been like eye-opening. I feel like I get it now. Not just like personal finance, but how our minds work with money. What's the biggest takeaway for you?
It's that long-term thinking. Patience.
Yeah.
Compounding. Building wealth. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
You got it. Just got to stay in the game.
Exactly. And define what enough means for you. Make your choices match that.
So to wrap things up, here's something to think about. What one area of your financial life could use a little more of that psychological perspective? Could you use a little less rationality, a little more reasonableness to be happier? Remember, the psychology of money, it's just as important as the numbers.